3, 2, 1, and here we are. It is the Strong Life podcast. If you don't feel like talking too much, you just tell people that you're listening to the Strongcast. I'm here with only half of the A team, the Barbell Shrugged crew. I'm with Douglas Edward Larson, and I'm with my boy, the Buddha Master. And we are going to crush a couple of questions that have been coming in through the Twitters and the Facebooks. And people were really pumped with our podcast that we did. The first one that we spoke about business and life, and then the last one when we were up in Vermont. And people want to say, hey man, how does Zach build those bad motherfuckers? So we're going to be talking training progressions. And I train predominantly athletes, but we've got a good crew of adults as well. And you guys train a lot of adults. So we're going to talk about training and how basically people are people and strong is strong, and that progressions and regressions apply across the board. There's I guess you really don't discriminate. If somebody's weak or inexperienced, you have a certain starting point. So let's talk about some training. Buddha man, we got some video footage. We're in your awesome garage over here. If somebody was going to start training with you in your garage, let's say somebody in their 20s, 30s, what are the things that you're going to do, I guess, to assess them and see how you could start training them? Because I see you got a squat rack, you got a barbell back there. What are some of the things you guys are going to do? Somebody new rolling up.
I see that 50-kilo bumper plates on this barbell.
Oh shit, that's really? Boss.
The old school Boss metal with the rubber edge.
That's from Sears.
No. These are sold on eBay. I got these for $400 for two. 110 pounds a piece, a Boss. Well, first things first. Obviously, when you want to get somebody strong, especially in something squat, you don't start them out just with squatting something like this, with straight bar, heavy weights, down and up. I think one thing you learn with time is that if you want to squat really well, I guess you have to get in shape and prepare to do things like squat. So my point of view, it's super duper important to build all the components that give you a squat. So like I know when I went around the first time with training, I broke myself by pushing the squat too quickly, too soon, especially when I played football. That's what led me to a pretty severe back injury. When you do things like a round over, having a coach tell you just try not to round over is not the best way to coach and intervene. So my best path of squatting a lot of weight was to build the components. So doing everything I could to build strong quads, strong hips, strong abs, a strong back. That meant back raises and sit-ups for days. That meant a fair amount of lunging. I was a kid, that meant a lot of things like leg pressing too. A lot of people quick to talk shit about leg pressing, but together to give me a base that allowed me to go on and do things like squat 800 pounds. If I wouldn't have done those things and gone back and rebuilt the components, I would have never been able to achieve that performance or lift. It wasn't just about what the barbell give me. Those things had to come together to create a circumstance, the conditions for me to be able to load the squat super duper heavy. That's the way I've always approached squatting. And same thing goes for deadlift and bench. The components have to be there before the barbell gets pushed.
Right. So before you even get into the barbell, you're doing build-up stuff. The way I try to explain to people is I say this is the same as us going to school. The 6-year-old kids don't go to calculus. The 6-year-olds in first grade, they're learning numbers. They're learning how to count. Then later on in first grade, maybe they learn some simple addition and subtraction. So that's kind of, I guess that's the teacher in me, but that's how I look at programming stuff for when people come to our gym, whether it's the middle school to high school athletes or it's the adults that we're training. Doug, a question that gets asked to me a lot. We just had a certification here in Jersey over the weekend, and sometimes the people attending, they see that we train a lot of athletes, so they ask me, hey, does this differ if you were to train the adults? And I tell them, well, it really doesn't differ. I go, we take them through the bodyweight exercises to assess them. We see how they move, and that gives us their baseline. And then if they're strong enough to do certain exercises, we do it. If not, we build them up. So a lot of people have questions. You guys run, you have actually 2 CrossFit facilities. What are some of the things that a newer member is going to do, or you guys do some sort of an on-ramp? How does that kind of introductory period look like?
So one of the first things that I've noticed with strength coaches when they're first starting out is that they usually came from a heavy training background themselves, and they got interested in coaching other people because they coached a lot of their friends.
Right.
All their friends want to get big and strong. They ask them for advice, and they just tell their friends to do whatever they did. And they never really took the time to learn scaling and progressions because they don't have any friends that are like 150 pounds overweight. All their friends are like their other D1 college football buddies, right? They're already athletic. They already have a strength background. They're not to training. They're coming from a pretty solid background. Usually, that was the way it was in my case. That's the way I've seen it in many other strength coach cases. So, one of the things I like with the brand new people is to kind of like you just said, build them up with those level 1 exercises. You made the grade school example. You got to get them first grade before you can get them 6th grade before you can get them 12th grade. And so the level 1 exercises that I like to use with new people are exercises where they get a lot of bang for their buck, but there's not a lot of learning involved.
Nice.
So same thing that you use with a lot of your beginner athletes. We do a lot of prowler pushes because you can teach someone how to use the prowler in seconds.
Yeah, you can't fuck that up.
Yeah, a lot of heavy carries.
Mike Bledsoe fucked that up, though.
Man, I got crazy if anything. Mike Bledsoe's our business partner. For anyone that doesn't know the Barbell Shrugged podcast very well, we like to give him a hard time. But yeah, pushing the prowler, yoke walks, heavy carries, especially heavy one-arm carries. I like those a lot. Stuff that doesn't take a long time to learn. Pile-off presses, static holds. That stuff's easy to learn. Put someone in a position to say, just hold it right on in the beginning.
And it's fun, and it's not very intimidating either. It's not like putting a heavy barbell in front of somebody and say, lift this in front of all your friends and people in this gym you just met. I mean, to push and to drag, get low barrier entry, it's fun, it's cool. It's with these people who are also learning, it's just the best way to start.
Yeah.
So once we start with things like heavy sled drags, heavy carries, and we start to move towards like basic squatting, basic deadlifting, obviously you're going to start off lighter and then move towards heavier, but there's variations within that don't require a barbell that might be easier to learn. A goblet squat's always going to be easier to learn than a back squat. You put a plate in someone's hands or a kettlebell in someone's hands, they just squat almost perfect the first time naturally because it's so much easier to do a goblet squat than it is to do a front squat or a back squat. Unless they have some type of really nasty mobility issues that no matter what kind of squatting they're going to do, they can't do it because their ankles are just locked in place at 90 degrees and they just can't squat down no matter what. By and large, the goblet squat is going to be easier than doing a front squat, back squat, or especially an overhead squat.
Yeah, it's good to hear you guys.
Definitely the hardest out of all those.
Right. What's cool to hear is that so you guys run 2 CrossFit facilities, and usually when you hear of somebody doing an on-ramp, or sometimes people just do like a 1-day, like a 4-hour intro, and then they bring them into the classes, and during that 4-hour intro, they're learning things like the clean, handstand push-ups, and that shit's pretty complex, especially, I mean, like you guys said, training football players. I remember training some of our most experienced football players, and the one guy was like, dude, I don't go upside down. So you guys are talking, I mean, in my language, keeping it simple. And I told coaches over the weekend, as I said, the expert coach starts to truly understand and see the power and beauty in simplicity. Whereas kind of like the not so expert coach, I don't know what word would be, but maybe the less experienced coach, he or she is trying to, use like flashy, complicated exercises to make their program look better, or they're trying to outfit their gym with lots of battling ropes, tractor tires, kettlebells, and I've mentioned to many of the people that have followed my newsletter that it really hit home when I stopped going to a gym and all I had was a squat rack, a barbell, and a set of 50 and 100-pound dumbbells. And my progress and my gains were amazing. And that's what taught me, and Dan John says this a lot. You know, Dan John he's not out there trying to impress anybody. I read on his blog recently, he goes, 2 things you should have in every program is some sort of a farmer walk or a carry and goblet squats. And goblet squats might be a beginner / intermediate movement, but we could turn it into an advanced movement simply by going heavier, or by pausing in the bottom, or by somehow slowing down the rep speed, making it more explosive, pausing in the midpoint wherever you're weak. So it's a beginner exercise or an advanced exercise. Sometimes the scaling is simply changing the rep speed or the tempo, or adding or decreasing the weight. For example, what you're talking about, carry. A carry could be advanced when you're carrying 250 pounds in each hand, but the beginner might carry 30 pounds in each hand. And if that's what is challenging for them, then that's what the right thing is to do for them. And, the person that reached out to us on Twitter and said, hey, Zach, I want to hear how you train your athletes. Well, exactly what Doug is talking about. Our introduction to training is super simple, and we're not trying to complicate things, because I want them to start experiencing results and feeling great literally from one workout to the next. And that might sound far-fetched, but the first maybe workout is going to be a bit of a challenge for them, just learning the warm-up, squatting, lunging, push-ups, basic stuff. But then the next workout, they're already doing better than the first workout. It boosts their confidence, and a more confident person is already a stronger person, whether it's sports or life. The adults that train with us, when they started experiencing the strength, when I started training this adult group, they started getting stronger. They started telling me how it positively impacted their work life, or the way they looked at work and trying to succeed at a higher level. And Buddha, you and I spoke about that when we did our podcast, just getting people like training for life, and kind of that's really what this podcast is about. And that's why I know that strength is, when it's trained the right way, it inspires people to live greater, versus a kind of training program that beats you up. It kind of makes you feel like shit, sucks out your energy, and that's not what you want from a program. You want each workout for people to leave feeling like they were challenged, but they still got energy in the tank, and they're like ready to take on the rest of their day, versus walking around being like, damn, that workout killed me. Of course, certain people listening to us, like you're wearing a Seal Fit shirt, if you're prepping for a Seal Fit challenge like I did, you've got to kill yourself. You've got to crush yourself to prepare yourself, not just physically, but also mentally, for going above and beyond what your body could handle. And I've done those programs as well for myself, and sometimes that's what our athletes need to get that mentality of being, indestructible, like that song from Disturbed. They need that feeling of being indestructible. So talk to us about how often you guys kind of do workouts for yourselves that are, I guess, optimal, versus sometimes where you just want to kick your ass. How do you guys work that in for yourselves? You guys hear me?
We've been cutting in and out a little bit.
Okay, I got you guys now.
You could hear us the whole time.
What?
On you?
Cutting in and out a little bit. We're both in. I'm in the basement. You guys are in the garage, so we'll just make the best of it. Talk to us just how you guys vary your own training as far as optimal versus sometimes maximal, aka crazy.
So lately, I've found for myself, like, I kind of went overboard for a while, and I got a lot of aches and pains, and a few nasty injuries over the last few years. So I've actually tapered it down over the last couple of years, and at the moment, I'm doing maybe like 4 hard days and 2 easy days, and then always taking at least 1 day off per week. So I'm kind of following something more like an upper lower split.
Yep.
With some type of conditioning. Maybe it's a CrossFit Metcon. Maybe it's hard prowler intervals. Maybe it's a 400 meter run. Maybe it's row intervals. And then again, sometimes I do the more like CrossFit Metcon type thing. And then actually, I've been throwing in on the 2 easy days some actual more traditional, like just like a 20-minute light jog, which I really never done that almost my whole life, just gone for like a jog. But lately, I've actually really been enjoying it. On my light day, just doing some low intensity cardio, which we don't really preach a whole lot, but lately it's really been making me feel better, and it doesn't hurt me. So it's been a way that I can keep training without having any joint pain, especially in my shoulders and in my neck. I've been a lot more low intensity training than I have over the last 10 or 15 years, but it's been making me stay in shape at least a little bit without really hurting any of my joints. So I've been throwing that in and actually really enjoying it lately. But so yeah, upper lower split, 2 days upper, 2 days lower, and then 2 days lower intensity, either just aerodynamic, going for a jog, stretching, something light, and doing only 4 hard days a week has really made me start to feel a lot better joint pain wise lately. I'm not fighting MMA right now, so I don't have to like be in shape on a specific day. With that threat of if you're not in shape on that day, you're gonna get your ass handed to you, which is a big motivator, obviously. And you're joint pain to be in good shape. If the downfall of not being in shape is, get power lifters would train. The Westside model is, doing like 2 upper, 2 lower, dynamic day, heavy day. I'm not exactly doing Westside myself, but it's kind of more like that, more focusing on strength and power. And then conditioning is kind of, for the moment, for me, like an aside. So really focus on strength and just staying healthy for the moment.
Yeah.
I would say my random asking workouts come when Doug says, "Hey, you want to train?" Because his light jog for me is like max effort shit. Like, man, I don't want to run. Like, for me, anything over like 400 meters is a trial. Like to run around the neighborhood for a warm up. But I've kind of just recently gone back to something similar like Doug's saying. I'm back to a 4-day split, upper and lower, because I was having a lot of trouble recovering when I was doing like 3 or 4 days a week, where every day was a heavy, really a max effort squat, followed by frequently pulls and pushes. Like for me, if I combine too many things in one session, like the old bicep tendonitis in the shoulder is really rears its head. So curiously enough, Zach, I've actually taken some influence from you. I've realized that one of the biggest mistakes I've made recently is pushing the barbells too much. I'm not super old. Same age as Jesus, 33. Just take that for what you will. But I've been training for
super old.
It's been like 23, 24 years. To push the barbell too much now, to push that barbell, I got to keep it. Yeah, I got to keep it very, very efficient, because I'll quickly get things like inflammation in my shoulders if I push squats and presses too much. So my goal right now, on a max effort day, once a week for upper and lower, and on a pseudo speed day, upper body and lower body once a week, to keep that barbell work super pure, super intense, and to control the volume a bit. And I am doing now a ton of small stuff. So things like rows in every possible angle. I've even been doing some pec deck, lots of curls, lots of extensions. I'm doing curls and extensions of all kinds with weight stacks and plates and everything. Yeah, for my legs, I'm doing like this. I love the little I do one-legged leg presses on a plate on the machine, the eccentric, and then jumping off of it. And as soon as I started doing that just 2 times, my deadlift started picking up speed again. Quicker off the floor, I can lock out better. So all that shit we talked about earlier, like the foundation stuff, the carries, the drags, the extensions, the curls, the presses, all that stuff that people think of, well, that's stuff from my past, that's beginner stuff. I don't like the word beginner, because this is shit you got to come back to every once in a while to sort of firm up your pace. Like,
you got to get back to it.
Yeah, you know what? I want to be able to push. I want to lay down on the bench any day of the week and bench 400 pounds. Cool. That's one of my goals. Like, I want to be able to keep that and stay there. But I got to be able to work my chest and arms in ways that don't cause pain. So you know what? I'm not afraid of kicking in some pec deck if it helps my chest recover and brings up some
bodybuilding work.
I'm not afraid of doing a row machine. I'm not afraid of doing the extensions, leg curls, because these things, it's sort of like trimming up your yard. You can cut your grass.
Such a philosopher.
Trim the edges, the shit looks gross. And if all you do is trim the edges, you don't cut the yard, it looks gross. What you got to do is do your barbell work to cut the grass, and do your trimming and all your accessory stuff. That makes things look right. So that's the way I'm approaching my training. I'm getting back to fundamentals. So far, so good, man.
Dude, look at when you look at what happens at Westside, you know, they do their main lift, and then after that, everything is bodybuilding style training. And people don't realize that if you're only chase like the quote unquote performance exercises, squatting, deadlifting, power clean, those are great exercises. But like what you guys are saying is we're all in our 30s. Are you in your 30s, Doug? You're in your 30s. That's still, yeah, dude, that's very young. And people are getting beat up from that stuff. And what you guys are saying, and what I say is, you got to start using common sense. Stop trying to copy Dmitry Klokov, everything he does from Instagram. Yeah, right. You don't have that luxury. Yesterday I got an email from a Bulgarian sports journalist, and I think he may have emailed Mike when we were all in Jersey or in Vermont. He mentioned it's the story of the Bulgarian weightlifter who got arrested. Right. So he just reached out to me. He said, "Oh, I'd love to send you the book to look at." And I said, "Oh, it's on Kindle. It's $4. I'm gonna buy it anyway." And I didn't even know about it. And then my kids were like, "Oh man, Bulgarian wrestlers, this and that." I said, "Guys, you can't." I said, "This, you know, you guys have heard of Westside. You hear of like these Bulgarian wrestlers, Cuban wrestlers, these top teams, Russia." I go, it's very different when they don't even, the only thing they do is sleep, which is also controlled. They eat, which they don't even cook their food. That's done for them. They're told how to train. They're told every set, rep, and weight, so they don't even have to think. They don't have girlfriends or wives, and if they do, they don't see them. They're in camp. So their stress is so non-existent compared to what, I guess, quote-unquote, normal people like ourselves do. And I think that's the mistake people make is they look at Westside Barbell, they look at Klokov, they read a book on the Bulgarian method, and then they're like, I'm going to train myself this way, or I'm going to train my clients this way. And I always say the art of coaching, because when we have my cert, there's probably like 80 to 90% are coaches or aspiring coaches, and 10 to 20%, like 1 to 2 out of 10 people, are there. They're just like, I just want to learn how to train. And I say, okay, the art of coaching is when you're paying attention to what you need. And sometimes you got to back off. Other times you got to, you know, you go full throttle. Other times you're going optimal. You're leaving a little bit in the tank. And the stuff that you're talking about, using those bodybuilding exercises, those could be used with great return of results, whether it be performance. You want to get stronger and faster. You got to put on some muscle. You want to be more explosive, you still need to do that rep work. And that rep work is also, it keeps your body healthy versus always power clean, squat, deadlift. Sometimes you got to look at, you know, on the scale of things like what we speak about right now. And for those of you listening, if you go to barbellshrugged.com, you'll see our new training course, the Underground Strength Evolution. It's a timeline of training. And that's how I really explain to people. And that when you look at training, you create where do you want to go, the end result, back up from there. And that timeline of training could be applied to like anything in life. You know, you want to have a big squat, then plan it, do reverse engineer it. You want to buy a new house, reverse engineer it. And that's how you got to look at training progressions and regressions. You want to reverse engineer that shit, baby, like a boss.
Yeah. You know, you said it right. The key of all the things I've learned in training over the years, the most important question is, I think it's one thing I really appreciate Westside taught me. Like, one idea is like, you gotta, what do you need? Like,
that's
what
right.
are you lacking? There's no way for anybody to know other than people who are close to you and you. Like, what do you need? You can appreciate why people go for the extreme methods because the people are just seeing what great athletes are doing and they just want to be like them. They want to do what great people do, and the most natural primate thing to think is, like, well, I got to do what they do to be as they are. And you forget that. You see Klokov doing awesome back raises with a bar and snatch position overhead. You go, wow, that's awesome. If I tried that right now, I'm going to wrench something out of my shoulder, my lower back, or
Your
something.
shoulders and arms will fly off.
It's cool. You want to take note. You want to learn that. You want to play with maybe working up to that. But that guy has been training hard with barbells since he was like 10 years old, and
Right.
under extreme conditions. And in Soviet Russia, with his dad was a national caliber weightlifter himself, so he was cultivated for this.
It's true.
Like, there's a fine balance of going, look, I gotta always be looking for awesome examples of people who are just killing it with a barbell, and take note and learn from that. And I always gotta balance that out with saying, what do I need? And the people around me who are beginners, what do they need? It's like Doug always says, if you want to be a good businessman in the gym world, anytime you read something that's advanced in the training room, you want to balance that with a good common sense business book or something to keep your sort of knowledge balanced. Maybe training's the same way. Every time you see somebody do something really advanced and crazy, balance that out with, like, for me, for the average person, for somebody who walks in my gym day one, who doesn't know shit about anything, what's the best thing they would do to get stronger? Like, always reminding yourself, there are these people, there is me in between, there's a raw beginner. What they need is going to be so radically different. You got to keep balance, or else you're going to drift towards the complex, and you're going to make the worst mistakes there.
The open-minded person, I think, is the most powerful person, because they can see the possibilities of what can be, whereas the person who's feels they are at expert status and that everything has to kind of go through research study and all that shit, they only see what is versus, the possibilities. And being open-minded, whether it's with training, business, or life, I think that's the most powerful way to be. And, I'm not saying that through theory. That's really how I look at things. Like when we had the weekend certification, I'm always like paying attention to some new things that other coaches are going to bring, or stories that they talk about, things that they tried with the people that they train. But what always comes down to is this kind of like method of reverse engineering, is that having a plan and knowing where is the proper way to start before you move too fast too soon. So I'm a big fan of speed. When you do shit the right way, whether it's in life or lifting, you progress that much faster. For example, I always tell people that are going to open a gym, I go, you can't just fill up a warehouse gym with equipment, roll up the garage door and be like, hey, everybody, we're open, come on. You got to reverse engineer that stuff. You want to build a website. You want to start getting YouTube videos, with keywords and with great stuff. You want to have members before you even open up the warehouse gym that you've trained and provided results for. And you want to have basically the foundation. And this is a funny story that I'll never forget. Man, I was 14 or 15, but one of my wrestling coaches, he was an awesome wrestler, and then he competed in bodybuilding. And I remember he just succeeded at everything. He was just a bad mofo. Now he's an attorney, and he's just crushing it. Has a big practice. And I remember when he was lifting at this gym, this old school gym that we used to train at, when he used to train, it would be like 5 sets of back squats, 5 sets of front squats, 5 sets of leg press. This is 89, 90 when volume training was getting crazy. But one of the other guys was like, damn, all legs today, huh, Harold? He goes, hey, you want to be as big as a house, you got to build the foundation. And he was so true. Like Mondays, they always did their leg work. Him and some of the other guys that they used to lift, it was always legs. And when he said that, that always reminded me that that's the truth with training. Like if an athlete comes to my gym and they're big upper body, weak legs, everything else is weak because their foundation is weak. If the legs are weak, the person is weak. And it's the same thing with a business. You can't try and jump to the 5th floor. You gotta start really in the basement, build the foundation, and then you gotta climb your way up. That's how I look at training. That's how I view life. They kind of just go hand in hand, work together.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense to me. You say, I want to be big and strong, so you train like Klokov trains. God bless your heart. Bless you. You go, I want to create a successful business. You go, well, just open the door to something and start fucking counting my money. Equally foolish, right?
If only it was that easy. So, listen, we're making this a little bit of a shorter podcast because I know you guys got you're scheduled another one to come up in a few minutes. Everybody listen, I'm here with my boys, Doug Edward Larson and the Barbell Buddha, okay, from Barbell Shrugged podcast. And like we mentioned midway through, we put together an awesome training course. It's called the Underground Strength Evolution. If you go to barbellshrugged.com, you could see that we did another interview while we were up in Spartan headquarters up in Vermont, where we spoke about training. Go ahead, check that video out at the very least. And then you're going to have the training course, which is video from the Underground Strength Gym of me really breaking it down, super, super detailed. And it's a very powerful thing that I've really been working on since, like we said, since 1989, since learning the training. And of course, while you're there, make sure you check out the other podcasts I've done with these guys. It's been amazing. So go to barbellshrugged.com. And once again, thank you everybody for being part of the Strong Life podcast, the Strongcast. You guys got any closing thoughts before we cut out? Closing words?
Nah, man. Thank you for having us on the show.
Awesome.
Appreciate you pumping Barbell Shrugged a little bit.
Love it.
CTP, you know what episode Zach is? Maybe find out what episode number you are. Do you know?
I think he's 104.
I want to say you're episode 104 or so. So if you want to listen to Zach on the Barbell Shrugged podcast, episode 104, something like that, you can probably just Google Zach Barbell Shrugged podcast.
And Barbell Business.
And he's on Barbell Business. That's right. Barbell Business is audio only, so that's going to be on iTunes or Stitcher. But Barbell Shrugged is video as well, so that's going to be on YouTube as well as iTunes and Stitcher.
Awesome. And thanks.
You can see Zach's pretty face.
Yeah.
Look, your face, fools. You got some guns like this.
Look.
Curl, get your
biceps. And listen, everybody listening, seriously, without your support, we are nothing. And we put out these podcasts and the training courses according to what you guys tell us that you want, and we love inspiring people through strength. So thank you so much for listening, for watching, for spreading the word, and just for being part of the overall badassery that we do. All right, guys, barbellshrugged.com, undergroundstrength.tv, and the Underground Strength Evolution. Check it out at barbellshrugged.com. Peace out, everybody. Take care. Comb your hair. Be nothing less than awesome. And that's it. Thanks again, everybody. Peace.